Welcome to the 77th Sports Lounge. I am the biggest White Sox fan that we know, Travis Kriens. We also have Charlie Hildebrand ready and rested to go. And what type of a shirt do we have, Mr. Hildebrand, today?
I think this is an Oregon Ducks one. I was hoping Schottenkirk could be on the show, but he's not, so it's irrelevant that I'm wearing this.
We'll break it out in a couple of weeks. When we get closer to the season, that'll make for some good trolling.
We have Mr. Traxler. He's got the All-Star sign up. That's a good addition to the wall. And what type of a shirt do we have on today?
Go Jacks.
Go Jacks. We'll be talking Jack Rabbit Athletics later on in the program. But first, I debated about whether starting with the mess. That's the Twins, and everybody's pissed off at the manager all of a sudden now because they've lost a few games. Or Tony Dungy saying he wouldn't take Michael Sam. So I decided to talk about Michael Sam. So when he gets cut in about 3 weeks, we won't have to talk about him anymore, so we may as well get it in now while the getting is good. Tony Dungy comments earlier this week with the Tampa Bay paper. He said he would not have taken Michael Sam, not because he doesn't believe that he should have a chance to play, but that he wouldn't want to deal with all of it. What would it be? The media distractions, of course, because a sixth-round pick. Tons of media distractions, at least 2, maybe 3 extra cameras there. That makes for a hell of a mess. He went on TV on Wednesday after he made the comments and kind of explained them more. Your initial thoughts of Tony Dungy saying that he would have not have taken Michael Sam because of all of the distractions.
I think it's safe to say he probably shouldn't have said it, and it was the wrong way to look at things. But at the same time, I think it's worth noting that I think I saw that Michael Sam's already 6th in the NFL in jerseys sold.
Yep.
And if he gets cut, which I'm not saying he will or he won't, but there's a good chance he will, it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Because I think most of the people in sports won't really make that big of a deal about it because 7th-round picks get cut all the time. I think it'll be interesting to see what everybody outside of sports who doesn't follow it that closely or know the ins and outs of an NFL team breakdown and making the 53-man roster, how they'll look at that. I think there will probably be a lot of people that don't understand it and are very angry that he got cut. Where I think if he does, it will be purely for football reasons, but this is all speculation that could be irrelevant in 3 weeks if he makes the team.
I agree with those points. I think the 2 things I took away from the Dungy ordeal is one, I don't think you can say those things and not have people, take into your previous history. He had the history of backing Michael Vick when he was trying to get back in the league, and he's come out and said that he, doesn't support gay marriage. He doesn't support that sort of lifestyle, and so I think he's biased against Michael Sam. And even if he was being sincere, I think he probably was. He meant what he said. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt on that. And I also thought the statement itself was ignorant, but that's just it. And I think it does count because, if he was a coach who wanted to minimize distractions, and he apparently, picked his team that way, I guess if he didn't think Michael Sam was worth it because he was a 7th-round pick, that's fine. But I think there's more to it, and if he's truly getting all uptight about, like Kriens said, a few more cameras around, then he's just not a very good coach. I mean, that's just not. Why do you care? Why do you care if there's 3 or 4 extra cameras around? Because even in training camp, everything's pretty controlled from a media standpoint, and Michael Sam's the one who's going to have to deal with any sort of media or those sorts of distractions. And I would say to this point, Jeff Fisher has handled that pretty well.
Jeff Fisher apparently says there are really no distractions with extra media. And distractions, what are distractions to you? Apparently to Tony Dungy, it's media, which media is really not allowed on the field or on the sidelines. It's not like it makes a difference in practice. When you practice a couple hours, it's not like you have receivers jumping over media guys on the 50-yard line or anything like that. Distractions. How is that a distraction if after the game you have to answer 5 more minutes of questions or 10 more minutes of questions, or around your locker room you have 10 or 20 more reporters in the locker room? How is that a distraction considering all the things that are related to football?
Well, I think if it doesn't have to do with football, or if it doesn't have to do with winning and losing, I would say most coaches would deem that to be a distraction. I hate the word. I hate the way it's used, because I think you could lump just about anything in there, as we're sort of getting to here. I don't know what else to say other than I think a lot of things get looped into being a distraction that they just happen. I would say that Ray Rice, beating his girlfriend, is a lot bigger deal than Michael Sam or whatever else. But that's just me.
Mr. Hildebrand.
I would agree with everything Traxler just said, and in terms of distraction, I would throw in that, in college, you're always selling yourself in the program because you're trying to get potential recruits in the future, and whether it's your personality or not, there's generally at least a little bit of, we want to be Pete Carroll or somebody like that collegiately, so kids are excited to go there. Where in the NFL, I'm not saying this is how every NFL coach is, but most of them don't ever want to deal with anything ever and really don't even want to answer football questions in the first place. And like he said, distraction's kind of a catch-all word for things I don't want to talk to the media about ever.
I consider a distraction. Marcus.
I think Charlie hit it on the head. How often do you see coaches that don't even want to answer anything that's football related, because they think it's going to give something away, or some sort of strategy tip-off, or whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. If you're good enough, you're going to beat the team when it counts. I think like a great example is asking, let's take the Vikings for example, asking when they might name a starter. It doesn't matter if you name a starter today or 3 weeks from now or the day of the opener. Just pick a. I don't know. You don't need to be so coy about it all the time, and I think that about strategy just kind of expands to everything. They don't want to answer questions about anything.
Everything's a waste of time that they could be breaking down film or reading scouting reports of college sophomores.
There's a lot of branches we could go off of this subject. When did football become this way? As long as we're on the being secretive, don't want to break down the film. Brady's got a shoulder injury for the 17th week in a row. All these secretive things. When did football become this extremely vital thing where nothing can get out? Because as Marcus mentioned, none of it really matters. You name your starter on Wednesday. You name them whenever. I don't give a damn. When did football become this way, and why is it not like this in the other sports?
My initial gut reaction is there's been a tiny bit that's kind of been this way for 50 or 60 years, but it's really been when like the rise of cable and all these games being on TV all the time, which has increased the amount of media covering it. And they're getting paid so much more, and there's so many more people that are paid to ask questions, that things that people say that aren't really even bad necessarily, like come back 15 years later or weeks later, and they say, well, why did you say this? And, to me, it's like if you ever see somewhere that someone's got like a greatest sports quotes, and most of them are humorous sports quotes, like all of them are between like 1940 and 1970. And then there's a sharp decline since then because it seems like, the media, which I think we can say that all three of us are to an extent or another, they like it when people are colorful.
We go to Rock County meetings. We see the mullets. We see them.
True. But they like it when people are colorful and personable and yada, yada, yada. But if they say something that doesn't jive a certain way sometimes, and this isn't everybody, but some, that it's instantly like, oh, can you believe that this person did this? And they're just looking at it, I think, kind of like an insurance company, where they're just like, you know what, we're just not going to deal with this, and we're not going to say anything ever, and then they'll never have to ask why I said this or something like that. That's my initial gut reaction to all of it.
Yeah, the system doesn't reward people for being themselves or being original. I think about, I think it's Coors Light, replays the Jim Mora playoff thing, or they replay Denny Green after the Bears beat the Cardinals, and he's going off. Those things stick with us because nobody since then has said anything interesting at all. And so, I guess I would agree that the cable has made it big. I also think that Bill Belichick, his success, NFL, people like to sort of model themselves after the winners, and if it works for Belichick, there's no incentive for anybody else to really be spilling the beans about anything else, so they're not going to do that.
When I think of a distraction, I think of something that is a negative, or makes people feel bad, or makes it harder to win for whatever reason. I feel like the Katrina thing was a distraction somewhat because you can't play in your home stadium anymore, and you have to go up to New York City to play a game, or you have to go to Baton Rouge and play a game. I feel like that's a bit of a distraction. When the roof in the Metrodome collapsed, I feel like that's a distraction because now you have to play in Detroit against the Giants instead of playing at home. So I consider distractions things that make life more difficult and make life makes it harder to win. And I don't see how this Michael Sam thing makes things harder on the Rams. How does this affect Sam Bradford, their quarterback, at all? I don't see one way that it does. Marcus mentioned the Ray Rice thing. I think that might be a distraction, considering he is suspended and he did beat his wife. What are things that you consider distractions?
Well, in the Ray Rice instance, I mean, people feel like it should have been longer. I think Ray Rice at the next juncture will get that question. He'll get that question quite a bit, I think. I guess John Harbaugh hasn't really said anything interesting about it. That other than Ray Rice is a good guy and we're moving on. But you said, what would I deem a distraction? Is that your question? Kriens? Anyway.
Travis?
He's gone.
I missed most of that. It was very choppy.
Okay, you wanted to know what I thought was a distraction?
Travis, do you want to know what Marcus thinks is a distraction?
Yeah, what would you consider a distraction? What would have to happen? Like, obviously, I don't think Aaron Hernandez is much of a distraction because he's not on the team because he murdered a couple of people. So that's not a real distraction. Do I consider a guy, a guy that maybe goes out and parties a distraction? No, I don't consider that a distraction. Unless he plays poorly, then it just becomes magnified. Not that one has to necessarily do with the other. It can, but what are distractions? What makes it harder to win? Or maybe you have another definition of a distraction.
Well, I don't like to. I mean, I think of the Vikings in 2010, where the locker room was supposedly split on Favre and whatever. You had the schism. I would say where there's two sides, guys who like this guy and guys who hate this guy, or if there's two quarterbacks and the team's pretty evenly split, I would say that that's a somewhat of a distraction because that actually does have to do with the game. Maybe the coach picks the wrong quarterback, fan base is mad, you're going to get the questions about it, coaching for his job. I would say that would be a legitimate thing, something that has an impact on the field.
I think that's a good answer. I'd probably agree with that.
On the field, in the game, personnel decisions, yes, very good. Things that actually affect the game. How Michael Sam being gay affects the actual game on the field, I have no goddamn idea. So, and I don't think anybody would say that it does. not even taking into account what Tony Dungy said. When in the hell, why in the hell did all of a sudden, since he's a big religious guy, when did he all of a sudden become a godlike figure where everybody has to know, well, what does Tony Dungy think about this? Well, what's Tony Dungy's opinion on this? Who gives a shit? I don't give a shit. I could give two shits what the Tony Dungy thinks about anything. When did this happen all of a sudden that he became this guy and everybody's like, well, goddamn, what does he think about it? Because I don't care what he thinks.
Well, somebody did. They asked him a question about it.
Right. Well, like at the end of the, well, I don't know if this is a good example, but at the end of the Sunday night football game, they go to him and say, what are your thoughts? That's more of a on-the-field thing. But just like social issues like the Michael Vick thing, why was he involved in the Michael Vick thing? I don't, is it just because he's a religious guy and people go nuts for that? Or because I don't give a damn what Tony Dungy thinks about pretty much anything.
Well, I go back to what Charlie said. When you have this media base that gets bigger and bigger, and we've talked about how the appetite for the NFL just does not go away. It's insatiable, where people just have to know what's going on all the time. We're going to get in this training camp too, I'm sure. And so you get this where people will go to Jimmy Johnson, they'll go to, Bill Walsh, they'll go to a guy like Tony Dungy, and they'll say, well, what do you think of all this passing? The shotgun. What do you think? What do you think of them adding, 2 games to the playoffs? And so that's just a quick story. That's something that Pro Football Talk can throw on their website, get thousands of hits, and we just move on. And so then when Dungy says something that people are like, well, that's stupid, then we get this, I guess, retread talk about it because it's just regurgitated until we're blue in the face.
How about Tony Dungy, social commentator? Like, why is he the guy that we got to go to help Michael Vick readjust to life after being in prison for 2 years? I don't know. I just don't know why.
He's put himself out there as being a social leader. Somebody who has these values. He's a religious guy. These are the things that certain parts of our country either hold dear as values or are things that the mainstream say these are things you should be doing. So a guy like Dungy, who for the most part lives in a decent manner, is kind of held up that way. But I can't think of any other guy in football, I'm trying to think of other sports, where we do that with him. I can't think of any. Maybe he really is the only one, but I can't think of anybody who we go to and we ask a sporting figure and we say, this person should have some sort of say on a social issue.
I think the only example I could think of that. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And to be fair, in this instance, he wasn't asked, hey, what do you think about gays in the NFL? I mean, he was asked, would you have drafted Michael Sam on your team? He said no. I mean, he has the right to his opinion, but that hasn't stopped Dungy from speaking on social issues before.
And then you said of coaches that they do that with. The only other example off the top of my head I could think of would be maybe, and most of this was he did this a little before our times as being super famous for it, but a little bit of Dean Smith at North Carolina. But that would then be 2 examples out of all of the coaches ever that we can think of. So not very many.
I'm Krzyzewski, but I don't think he's like a big social issue guy. He said last week, yeah, I'd take Kevin Love, Wiggins trade in a heartbeat. That's not a social issue, but he did kind of speak to basketball on a whole.
John Wooden would be a guy that everybody likes.
Right.
So, but not the social commentary type thing. I wish we had Bucks fan Drew Ahman on the program, but we only schedule him. He's similar to Brock Lesnar in the WWE. We bring him in once every 4 months to do a show because his rate is very, very high. So I'd like to get his thoughts of Tony Dungy. Now we kind of put him above everybody else for some reason, and I don't know why. To wrap up the football talk, since I hate the football so much, training camp coverage on ESPN. Apparently, they're going to have a thing where they're going to show the Seahawks training camp for like an hour or two straight. I don't know. I don't care. Why is this needed, and who the hell would watch this?
I'm not going to lie to you. Depending on what I'm doing, it's possible I could watch some of it. I wouldn't watch the entire 2 hours of it. But if they were, hypothetically, if they were doing tackling drills or something, I think sometimes that's fun to watch. But no, not in the context of not knowing what they're doing exactly and having probably some overhead commentator not knowing what they're doing either. I couldn't watch it for 2 hours. But I could maybe watch it for 10 minutes.
They showed a little bit of Browns training camp yesterday. I saw not more than 20 seconds of it.
How's Brian Hoyer looking?
Looking good. He threw a nice out pattern to Campbell.
To not Josh Gordon.
To not Josh Gordon, yeah. It's I'm not interested in it for any long periods. As you guys know, I've gone to Vikings training camp in person in the past. Now that I'm an adult, I'm pretty much bored by it, even in person. So watching on TV doesn't do much for me. To me, training camp is like a kid's thing, or the people who are truly diehards. Because I know there's people who take their 2-3 weeks of vacation to be there every day, and it's just like I don't know why you do that, but I know of a guy. I don't really know him, but somebody from near back home who he takes his 2 weeks vacation during training camp. He's there every day. It's his thing.
I believe friend of the program Shane Koob is at the training camp as we speak. So check out the Twitter for constant updates from Shane Koob. You can see Cordero Patterson wearing a nice hat. So you know things are serious when he has a nice hat on, a wide right. He's lined up wide right with a nice hat on, so that's important. I saw Buffalo Bills training camp. I saw about 20 seconds of that as well. Ron Jaworski was talking as E.J. Manuel took snaps in shorts. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a waste of time. So I flipped back like 10 or 15 minutes later. They're still talking about it. I'm like, wow, this sucks. Well, I did not watch it anymore because I don't like to watch things that I don't like. So there you go.
Let's be honest about one thing, too, though. Let's say Shane Koob comes back and he says, I don't know, what do they have, 3 or 4 quarterbacks on the roster in Minnesota?
7. They have 7.
Okay, 7. Let's say they've got 7, and most of them looked pretty mediocre and had a lot of poorly thrown balls, but every ball that Teddy Bridgewater threw was right on the money.
Oh.
You guys can't tell me that at least a little piece of you wouldn't be. Now, I'm not saying you'd want to be there, but a little piece of you wouldn't be like, I'm glad he told me that. Now I feel better about Teddy Bridgewater.
I assume Bridgewater is the better of the two. I'm interested in the preseason here in 2 weeks to see. Mr. Viking fan, do you expect Mr. Bridgewater or Mr. Ponder to back up Mr. Castle in the first preseason game?
The first game, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Ponder.
God damn, that'd be fucking hilarious.
I think it should be Bridgewater. I think Bridgewater will be the backup by the time camp's done. I don't know what will happen to Ponder, but I think Matt Castle will start, and they'll kind of go from there.
It won't be Ponder. He's got a kid now. It's a distraction.
That's a distraction.
Kid, all over training camp, shit in his pants every other hour. Pain in the ass. I would, that would be interesting. I hope if Ponder does play, if it's more than 2 series, you're wasting our goddamn time. I'm going to turn the channel until Bridgewater's in there throwing to God knows whoever's out there for the Vikings at that time. So preseason games here in less than 2 weeks. Very exciting. Bunch of guys that aren't going to make the NFL. You can watch them play for 3 hours. Twins are struggling. People have come out. People are pissed off. People want Gardenhire fired all of a sudden because they lost 3 in a row to the White Sox. And why this certain outrage? This outrage that people are calling for Gardenhire's head all of a sudden.
I don't know. I mean, I think people have kind of reached this boiling point where I think there's some concern that the minor leagues, first of all, they're not bringing up Trevor May or Alex Meyer, and that's getting some people angry, rightfully so.
The crock of shit.
You've got Buxton and Sano. I think people are just anxious, and they're sick of waiting for the next year. And even when this team was, on the verge of being competitive, I mean, I think that had people interested. Now, I mean, they've got nothing, and even their pitching's not that interesting. I don't have much to offer on the Twins right now. I don't really care what they do. The season's over as far as I'm concerned, and I probably won't watch more than about 10 games the rest of the year.
Charlie Hildebrand, your White Sox putting the boots to them these past 3 days.
Good.
That's impressive.
I saw that I was at work and occasionally would check the ESPN Gamecast, and it seemed like they would always jump up a few runs every time I checked it again an hour later or so.
You shouldn't
And
check
Abreu's home runs seem to have slowed down a bit.
He is leading the majors. He does have 30. Barring injury, he should keep on the space here. He should have the most home runs in the league. So Rookie of the Year is all his right now as long as he stays healthy, because Tanaka is probably done for the rest of the year. People do not like that May and Meyer are not up here. One of the two were a little injured, that out about a week, but they're back now. And you've got the junk like Mike Pelfrey. You got Kevin Cray, had a nice run, but his ERA is still above 5, and that sucks. Rookie Nolasco, if you can make the case, he's the worst starting pitcher in the American League, and you'd probably win that debate more times than not. It seems odd to me they have a reluctance to call up certain guys that fans are clamoring for, or certain guys that seem ready, like May and Meyer, since one of them has about 400 innings between AA and AAA, and that's quite a few innings. Why not give them a chance when your pitching somehow is not improved after an awful 2013 season? And yet you have certain guys like an Aaron Hicks, they get chance after chance. And between certain players not getting the chance and other players getting too much of a chance. Any rhyme or reason whatsoever?
They like some players over other players. I mean, there's no doubt that they like Aaron Hicks, and they want to give him chance after chance, and I don't know why that is. It seems like he's gotten those chances, and it hasn't worked out, and he deserves some time in the minors, and he's getting that. I don't understand, and Drew pointed out this week that the arbitration clock shouldn't be a thing now the rest of the season, and you should give these guys a chance, and I don't know what we're waiting for. I would expect that the call-ups will happen soon, but I don't know, how soon. I would expect in the next week or two.
Kendrys Morales. Anything else, Brand?
Or I was just going to say, not the Twins, the go-to Twins guy, but certainly if you're not having a great year and it looks like you're probably not going to have much of a chance to win the AL Central, it probably makes sense to say, let's bring a couple of these guys up, and let's see how they look at least over a month's worth of the season, or however long you need them up there, just to see how good they look against the second best of the best, which is the AL Central. Actually, I'm not ranking the divisions. I don't know, but
we do always look forward to Hildebrand's blog, where he power ranks each Major League Baseball division every week. We do look forward to that each and every Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock. Kendrys Morales was traded to Seattle. He played 39 games. He had 234. He had a home run. He had 18 RBIs. Your favorite Kendrys Morales moment in a Twins uniform that was never tucked in?
The time when he hit the home run and then he told the guys in the dugout not to get too close to him.
But did that happen?
I'm saying it happened.
Okay. Well,
and he hit a home run. He celebrated with his teammates and he didn't break his leg. So as far as I'm concerned, good stint.
put him in the Hall of Fame.
Twins Hall of Fame.
May as well don't beat your wife. You're getting the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Word solidified. I'm assuming Wyatt is viewing this, so Wyatt, don't beat your wife. You'll get in the Millette Hall of Fame in no time. Twins, that's about it with the Twins talk as far as current players. We did have the unfortunate news of Chuck Knoblauch, another domestic dispute. He was supposed to be in the Twins Hall of Fame here, in a week or so, and now that is off because he's back in jail or wherever the hell he's at. The big story here is that his face is fat. How did Chuck Knoblauch get such a huge face?
I don't know. I hadn't seen like a whole body photo of him lately, but that's fat Chuck Knoblauch right there. There's no doubt about that, and I'm kind of impressed actually that he's taken it to that length.
Some people age gracefully, and it appears that Chuck Knoblauch is not one of the I'm going to gracefully age and get better like a fine wine. He's like a McDonald's. He's like a McDonald's Happy Meal a month later right now.
That's imagery right there.
He doesn't even look like the same guy. Quite often. I'm trying to get a picture of him here. There we go. See if we can do a little screen share business to show the viewer out there what exactly Chuck Knoblauch looks like now. Let's see. Go to the button over here. We click on a deal over here. Click on this deal over here, and there you go. Chuck Knoblauch's face.
Whoa, buddy.
There you go. Chuck Knoblauch, how do you do?
He looks like a registered sex offender in Oakland.
Well, he's almost a registered domestic violence dude, so close enough for me. Now,
it's like he ate old Chuck Knoblauch.
You mean he ate young Chuck Knoblauch?
Well, I mean, even like middle-aged Chuck Knoblauch. Because is he in his 50s? He's probably in his 50s now, right?
I'd say late 40s.
Late 40s.
Here we got on the Chuck Knoblauch birthday.
1991 AL Rookie of the Year.
23 years ago.
My guess is he's 46.
He's
He just looks
46.
bad. He is 46?
July 7th, 3 weeks ago, he turned 46.
Good job, Charlie.
There you go.
He should probably start trying to take better care of himself if he looks that bad at 46.
So
That's a guy who hasn't shaved or gotten a haircut in 2 months.
you're doing it for charity, though, so that's okay.
That's true.
We also have Drew Almonds and Nathan Sackins' Tampa Bay Rays on a hell of a run here. Back not only in the wild card race, but in the division race in the AL East. You giving the Rays any chance? I think they were probably somewhere around 20 games under 500 at one point, and now they're right back in there. Hell of a run.
What do we say? Rays always make a run.
They make a run.
They're making that run right now. They are getting in the mix. I don't know. I mean, the AL East, it is kind of a shit show, so anything could happen. They're not in last place, right?
No, Boston sucks. They're in last place.
Right. So here come the Rays. Here they come. Look out.
We don't have any death at a stadium this week. I don't think we do, at least. We had lots of planes crash. That's unfortunate. But we may have some dead birds at a stadium because this new Vikings stadium, apparently, the bird people, the Audubon Society, they say this is going to kill a bunch of birds. How does this happen? Do birds not see this thing and say, Jesus Christ, there's a big building here. I'm not going to crash into it.
That's it. They look at it and they just see glass. And they're like, I can fly through that, and then smack. They get decapitated by slamming into the building.
Would it be enough to kill them? I mean,
yeah. I mean, if a lot of these, if they're flying at a good speed, and most of them are, yeah, it would be enough to kill them.
some more important news. We had Richard Petty and Bob Knight in Baltic here. When was this? Thursday morning. The Hefty brothers They put on a big shindig, and they brought out all the big names, the king of NASCAR and old Grumpy Pants himself, Bob Knight. How did this happen? This was quite the coup for the Hefty Boys. First, they're on the big screen during SDSU football games, which is right up there with being knighted by the Pope, because as we all know, the Pope is the one that knights you.
Right.
And so how do they get Petty and Knight to come to Baltic, South Dakota, of all places? Talk about God knows what. Latham seeds? Are they talking Latham seeds? Hell if I know.
Well, I know I wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure Bob Knight just mumbled about pheasant hunting for 40 minutes, and then they said, all right, that's enough.
That's enough, Bob Knight. Back to the home.
And then Richard Petty, he probably just stood next to the car. He didn't even have to say anything. Because apparently the historic 43 car was there. You can get your photo taken. I mean, I don't know. Did like local media cover this at all? I didn't see anything.
I have no idea. Wyatt Rogenkamp, he notified the authorities, which was me, and I would not have known about this if he didn't tell me. I don't know if somebody covered this or not, but it seems like a pretty big deal. I'm assuming Richard Petty, if you take his hat off, you can see his brains. So maybe somebody did that. I'm not sure. But if I was not working, or I had this was later in the afternoon, I may have swung by there and said, "Well, goddamn, look at that Dick Petty and old Robert Knight."
If it would have been in our coverage area, I would have been over there, I'm sure. But just not quite in there. My grandfather, Grandpa Traxler, he thinks that the Hefty Boys are one of the more interesting families in South Dakota. Because he always points out, well, they're a big deal out there, aren't they? And I go, yeah. And he's like, well, that's pretty interesting. So I sent him this link, and he was very interested. He wasn't going to make the 4-hour drive out here, but I'm sure a little bit more notice he might have. I don't know.
Would they be the brother Kardashians? They're famous, and we don't know why.
Well, I mean, we know why the Kardashians are famous. I mean, they're famous for
Why
being
are they?
famous. Well,
Okay.
I mean, they've always had this money from their lawyer, dad.
I've never heard of them until, what was it? I don't know, whenever 7 years ago, 5 years ago. When we were in college, did we hear them? I don't know. Whenever this TV show started with it, which is about nothing apparently. It's just them doing shit that the people tell them to do. They do shit and they do it.
This is where we need David.
It's probably worth noting. Honestly, it's probably worth noting that by far the most attractive of the Kardashian daughters had a sex tape, and that if it wouldn't have been for that, there's a good chance that maybe they wouldn't be nearly as famous right now.
That is a thing. That is significant in the story.
But even that, I don't know the timeline of this exactly, but I think, I mean, it was quite a while after that tape was made that they got a show. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, made the tape, now you're on TV. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 years, I think.
Really? Okay, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, according to this, 2007.
Yeah, you
October of 07.
You just search Kim Kardashian on Wikipedia, and it'll say when that was made.
Okay, so 07 was the TV show. I can't imagine. Did they even have computers back in 04? I mean, I don't even.
They didn't have YouTube.
And she was born in 1980. So, the Chris Humphries marriage back in 2011. That's tremendous.
72 days.
Yeah, the tape was it was leaked in 07. So I'm sure you.
Is that right?
I'm sure here's how it goes. We're having a show. Oh, by the way, let's get this tape out here a few months before the show. In February of 07, it was made public. It was made back in 03, so you are correct in stating that the actual tape was made 2 or 3, or actually 3 to 4 years before it was released.
I hate myself for knowing that, by the way.
But said show happened about 7 or 8 months after the tape was released. So obviously, you tape it in 03. February of 07, you release it, post-production, lighting, voiceovers, all CGI, all that sorts of stuff. You get the good stuff out. You get the bad stuff out, put the good stuff in. So that's the way that goes in the sex tape business these days. So they're famous for some reason. The Hefty Boys, they're famous for some reason. I'm pretty sure they don't do any work. So I don't know who does their fields. I'm not quite sure on that.
I'm sure they actually do the farming. They can't do all.
I've never seen them. I've never seen them.
Right.
It can't possibly have happened if I've never seen them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'm skeptical for sure.
Good. As far as the statement by the man in charge, they made some hires this past week. They got the softball coach. They got a new golf coach. They got a couple of administrative positions. And apparently, in the boss's estimation, reputable applicants were more aware of SDSU this time than in the past, and he attributes that to the recent NCAA tournament playoffs for football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. I took exception to this because neither basketball teams, for the first time ever in Division I, made a NCAA postseason tournament, the big one. So I guess they're going off 2 years ago. I don't know how much of an FCS football playoff win does nationally, and I don't really know how the hell that affects your golf program or your tennis program. Or not even tennis, but whatever the hell other sport they field here, that's a very worthwhile softball, or whatever the hell it was. Say they want to find a special person to come in and make us better. These folks are going to make us better as a department. The same old stuff. So apparently, the big NCAA tournaments means that you get a softball coach from the power known as Wayne State, and you get a golf coach from down in Tennessee with no local ties. So I'm sure he'll fit in quite nicely up here, the town of Brookings, all 19 people that live there. The administrative positions I found interesting. Some guy from Augustana, who is a Brookings native, so I'm sure he's never heard of Brookings before this recent run of playoffs. So he's new to the game. A girl from northern Kentucky that graduated the same year as I did, so she's got experience up the wazoo. And some guy in central Michigan that graduated in 2009. So do you take as much exception as I do that there were recent reputable applicants who were more aware of SDSU this time? It would make sense if they were coming from big schools or had a lot of experience, but you have a guy coming from Augustana, 45 minutes south, who's a Brookings native, got his master's at SDSU, a former assistant baseball coach. You got somebody from northern Kentucky, noted power in the SEC, and somebody from the big Ten school there in central Michigan. Where does he get the gall to say more reputable applicants? Maybe they're not hiring these reputable applicants.
I mean, I would agree, I guess, with the sentiment that more people know about SDSU because of these NCAA tournaments. Maybe the FCS playoffs, I don't know. But I don't see, as you have eloquently pointed out, I don't see the connection between making those tournaments and these particular hires. It's fine to say that if you hired people from reputable schools. I don't see that other than the Tennessee hire for golf. I think that's a fine hire. But outside of that's kind of it.
Jesus Christ, look at this, boys. Breaking news on the program.
Wow, look at that.
Texas's own. Where did you steal this computer from? What is this? What is this?
What is this?
What is this? What is this?
This is progress.
What is it?
It's a computer.
Jesus H. Christ, look at this. Sorry, open cap, everybody. Very good. Did you have any thoughts on this SDSU thing? Did you hear any of this?
I heard a bit of it. I'm trying to get this thing to work, but refresh my memory. What are you talking about?
Very good video quality on your end. Solid audio quality. Better than Nathan Stacken's initial.
Is it?
As athletic director, says that there's more reputable candidates now within the athletic department because of SDSU's playoff runs in basketball and football. And okay, maybe, but if you hire a softball coach from the power known as Wayne State, I don't buy that. If you hire a guy that used to be a assistant baseball coach at SDSU and is from Brookings and worked at Augustana, I don't buy that. And if you hire a couple of people from northern Kentucky and somebody from central Michigan that graduated the same year that I did, and I don't buy this reputable applicants thing.
Maybe they're trying to keep a low profile. I don't know.
They're trying to keep it local.
Yeah.
Nope.
There you go.
Nobody does local like
northern Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky. I will say in defense of these hires, at some point you want to move up the food chain, and SDSU is up the food chain from some of these places. I don't know about from Central Michigan, but certainly from Wayne State, certainly from Northern Kentucky, Augustana. So in that respect, you would have to give these people credit for taking the chance at a decent school.
And we all know if you win softball games at SDSU, they build statues for you outside the stadium.
That's why there's 0 statues.
Exactly.
Nobody's been able to win softball games.
Yeah, the first person that has a winning season will get a statue. That's pretty clearly laid out in the contract.
Every year they take 10% and they put it in a bank account, and it just keeps building so they can get a better and better statue. It's going to be marble now.
If they can ever get a game in before May 5th, they should build a statue. Or build something indoors where you can play softball indoors so you don't have your first 40 games of the season not at your home park. So that's a situation that would you expect the softball, if worse came to worse, would they ever play softball in that new facility there?
I would guess that they would. I know at Iowa State they've used their indoor facility, their football facility, for like a early season tournament in February, and I don't know how high the roof is there, but the roof at SDSU's place is like 65 or 70 feet. That seems low, but I would guess that might get it done.
You'd have to hit the ball first to hit the ceiling. So.
Right, you got to get it in the air.
That's the problem.
And it's probably better to play one game in a place that doesn't work all that well than to just say, nope, I guess we're never playing Valparaiso in softball in Brookings, or whoever it might be.
Never again. Going back to some Twins musings from the week, apparently Wally Holland made a comeback, and Billy Haywood threw out the first pitch. You're going to throw this out in about, I don't know, maybe you already did it, but maybe 10 minutes from now. Some of the great thespians of our time from the movie Little Big League from 20 years ago. Billy Haywood looks the same, which is weird since he was probably like 15 when the movie was made. Now he would not be 15 since that's 20 years later. Is this a big deal for you? One of the great movies of your childhood, I'm sure.
I did.
It's a little bit of a big deal. I liked Little Big League as a kid. I don't remember all the details, but I remember thinking it was funny that in whatever big important game at the end of the year that they lose, spoilers everybody, they lose. Movie that's 20 years old. But that Ken Griffey Jr. gets on base and he's like, I'm going to steal second, I'm going to steal third, and I might even steal home. And I thought that was funny. And it's more cheesy now, but it's still kind of funny to me because nobody steals home anymore. Especially after they've stolen second and third.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines. I wore out the VHS on that movie, watching it over and over. I'm just, it's coming to me now. I remember Lou, right? He's the one who has the relationship with Billy's mom.
Yep.
And,
the redheaded guy who's the bodyguard that gets fired in First Son and has never been in anything else ever.
Yep. He was in the West Wing, I think. Never seen the show, but...
Didn't he play, and he played what, third base in the movie?
Yep. Third base, first base, one of the bases.
And then I'm thinking of Major League, where...
Which is a different movie.
Right. The catcher is the love interest, or the guy who gets the girl. third base. I don't know. I thought for a second that they were both third base, but I'm thinking of Roger Dorn in Major League, and he's just a dumbass.
Who is yet again a different person.
Right.
He's got a clause in his contract, so he doesn't have to do unnecessarily calisthenics that he doesn't think are necessary.
That is a great clause.
Is this the most Jesus Christ here? Is this the most Minnesota movie ever? Where the team doesn't even make the playoffs. They lose the game to get to the playoffs. How great is that? Since Minnesota, known for its vaunted sports teams, professional sports teams, championships upon championships in our young lifetimes.
It's the most Minnesota sports movie probably, just from that nature. Although I do have a spot from the original Mighty Ducks, because I just like that movie.
I think as most Minnesota movie, you'd probably have to throw in Fargo, since it all takes place in Minnesota and is not even named after anywhere in the state.
You know, they're going to start filming that in Sioux Falls now, from what I heard.
That's right. Laverne as well. Somebody's going to die in Laverne, so they got to...
Yeah, they can get into the city without a boat.
There you go. We're still trying.
Yeah, underwater?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
The lawn watering ban, as of Tuesday nights, not in effect anymore. So water your lawns unnecessarily for no reason whatsoever. We haven't had a significant amount of rain here in a while. We got about a half inch on Thursday. But if I was in charge, which I'm not, I would say no lawn watering whatsoever. Ever.
That the green grass thing is a very American ideal. People love the idea that the grass always has to be green. It can't be slightly brown, even though you can have brown grass and it can be healthy.
They do not mow their lawns in Texas.
Good. Do they have lawns?
All the lawns are 6 feet tall down there.
Jesus criminy. They just put the cows out there or what?
I don't know. They must be trying to hide the snakes or something.
Very good.
I think it's worth noting, based off what Traxler said, you've got to make sure your lawn's green so your neighbor can look over his fence at your lawn and think it looks better on the other side.
Well, I mean, part of the reason that California and Nevada are out of water, basically, is because they've had sprinkler systems for the last decade, 2 decades, and it's water these... I mean, you're in a desert. Don't expect green grass. That's stupid.
Yeah, it's a waste of money, waste of water. It sucks. Hall of Fame. Anybody attending the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame this afternoon? Anybody going to head up there?
Ah, shit. I'm going to be late.
I've actually been driving this entire time, and as the resident Frank Thomas fan, I might watch some of it later.
I didn't know that was an RV that you're shooting from.
Yeah, it's got a really good stabilization system, so it's not rocking the entire. But I just hit a bump right there.
Sean Welsh, the driver?
What's that?
Sean Welsh, the driver, I assume?
Yeah, it's true. I can't tell if he's been drinking or not either, because he's always just kind of got that goofy personality.
Very good. You got such luminaries getting into the hall, as well as Stacken's favorite guy, Bobby Cox. So you got Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa, Frank Thomas, Maddox, and Glavin, and one other manager that I'm forgetting because he's a Hall of Famer.
Joe Torre.
Joe Torre, that guy, he never did anything. Some changes here, the Hall of Fame procedures. Usually you're on the ballot for 15 years if you get the minimum number of votes. Now they cut that to 10. Is that a good idea?
I think it's interesting because our old boy, the old Dutchman Blijleven, he wouldn't have gotten in then.
He got in on the 14th year.
Right. So that's a problem.
I'm okay with 15 years. I don't know. I mean, it's not likely that after 10 years you get voted in. I mean, just look at the people that have been voted in after 10 years. It's not very likely. But another rule is eligible voters will be required to complete a registration, which I'm sure is very important, and also sign a code of conduct, and their names will be made public, but not their individual votes, which to me doesn't mean a whole hell of beans. and Dan Levitard from ESPN and Miami Herald columnist. He was kicked out for 1 year and barred from future Hall votes when he had turned his ballot over there to Deadspin voters in January, which everybody had an uproar about, including the Twins announcers Dick Bramer and Roy Smalley yesterday. I had no problem with it since it's a bit of a crock, the process anyway, since nobody has ever gotten 100% of the vote. So, I mean, if certain guys don't vote for, I mean, we could all name 5 guys right now that belong in the Hall of Fame, or that are currently in the Hall of Fame, that 100% no doubt should be in the Hall of Fame, but for some reason some voter did not vote for them. So I think that's a crock of shit. So if you're mad at Dan Levitard, I would be mad at these other voters that don't vote in somebody like like a Derek Jeter or Greg Maddux, since they're obviously Hall of Famers.
I agree. It's stupid. I mean, I don't know why we've kind of made a meal out of this whole thing anyway, but I mean, if they want to make a statement, fine. I just think if you're not going to disclose who votes for who, it doesn't really matter.
As we wrap up the program here, Mr. Rogenkamp, did you go to any concerts this past weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Did we see anybody play some music this past weekend?
Yes.
Who would these people be? If they had names, what would you call them?
Well, there'd be a guy and a guy.
Okay.
And they were in Watertown.
Is that right?
Montgomery Gentry.
Montgomery Gentry coming to Watertown. What was this? Where were they at?
The Speedway, the dirt track.
Did they race?
No, but I think if you would have let a few of the concert goers climb aboard the tour bus, they would have tried to get that thing in high gear going around the track eventually.
Was it a good time?
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Traxler.
I imagine you're going to make a trip to the Brown County Fair.
Everybody around here thinks that's the greatest thing in the world. I was not impressed with it last year when I went. I personally thought the State Fair was a lot better. So I think I'm going to put my eggs in one basket and go to Huron instead of the hub city. There you go.
I had forgotten who was playing. Among the notables, Hairball on Wednesday. Everybody does like Hairball. Kip Moore on Thursday, Chris Young on Friday, Willie Nelson on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this is at the State Fair?
That's the Brown County Fair.
Oh,
Alabama's going to be at the State Fair. I know that's a hot ticket.
My dad, the front man for Alabama, that'll be good to see. So, the Rock County Fair wrapped up last night. I was there for a time during the afternoon when nobody else was there, so that was good.
Did they have the enduro races?
They did.
And
that one guy won. So
you didn't make it to those.
Guy.
No, I didn't make it to the enduro races. It was too much for me, too much excitement. So I said, I'm not going to go to the enduro races. You are a veteran of the Rock County Fair, more so than me. What are your thoughts on the Rock County Fair and events? It doesn't seem to be a huge thing since Rock County is not a huge place with a lot of people. But give me your thoughts, Mr. Traxler, on the Rock County Fair.
It's been ages since I've been there, at least 10 years probably. But as I think I've told on this here show before, the Christoffels family, they make a point of going to the meat feeds on each of the nights. So what? It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
Something like that was the majority.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, we go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So the one night there's the beef feed.
Is this free?
Well, I think there's a charge. It's like $5 or whatever.
Okay.
And then the next night it's a pork feed, and my grandparents make a point to be there. They don't miss, especially the beef feed. I know that's a point that my grandpa does make to be there. I don't remember. I remember going through, but I don't remember there being much to do at the Rock County Fair.
Eat meat.
Eat meat.
Eat
Yeah.
meat, that's about it. Did you ride the rides?
No, I remember riding the rides at the Murray County Fair in Slayton years ago on one of the octopus rides where you go up and down, and I must have been really young, I don't know, 8 or 9, and I've never been real good with rides anyway, and that freaked me out at whatever age I was at, and but I also think I got over some sort of mental hurdle there too, because if that one sticks out, and I mean I've been on roller coasters since, so I must have been able to defeat something in that process.
You got to be careful. Those carny rides can give you a bad experience that lasts for a long time.
All I know is that I don't ever want to be on a ride that gets stuck in the air. Like, that would kill it. That would kill it for me. I mean, even if we were at a county fair where you're only 15 feet or 20 feet off the ground, that would probably mess it up for me for quite a while.
So you don't like it when the Ferris wheel stops when you're on top?
That's not me. That's not me. I'm a big scrambler fan, and I'm a big tilt-a-whirl fan. Especially if you have somebody in the tilt-a-whirl who will really get it spinning with you. That's a good time.
I'm a big fan of staying on the ground.
Is that right?
That's right.
Well, that's why I like those. You're not going up in the air. It's you're on the ground. And the worst thing is that the scrambler just explodes and you go flying 30 or 40 feet. But that's, I mean, what are the odds of that?
1 in 10.
Okay.
Charlie Hildebrand, last fair that you went to?
It's been a long time. I remember visiting a friend of mine who lived in my neighborhood and moved to Michigan when I was a kid. And we went to one, and it was like one of those, like, rocking back and forth and keeps going higher and higher till you're going upside down. And they didn't have any shoulder harnesses. They literally had, like, a seatbelt. And I remember, like, being upside down and, like, sliding out of the seatbelt when I was about 12 or 13 and swearing probably more in 6 seconds than I had in my entire life up to that point. And I've been on rides since then, not rides like that at Carnival, or fairs or places like that. If it's going to go upside down, I need the shoulder harnesses. Otherwise, it's a deal breaker for me after that.
How high was this?
This would have, I'm trying, looking back on it, I'm trying not to distort it in my memory. It was high enough if I would have fallen out, I'd be dead, though.
You'd be dead.
We're talking at least like 30, 40 feet in the air. And falling, or let's put it this way, even if I wouldn't be dead, I'm landing on my head, so I'd probably be dead.
That's no fun.
And it was just, here's your seatbelt. Hopefully that keeps you in, kid.
Jesus.
The one thing I wanted to point out is that in Minnesota, almost every county has a county fair. My home county, Leisure County, oldest county fair in the state. Not nearly the best, probably not even average, but it is the oldest. And out here in South Dakota, you have 3 really. There's one out in Rapid, there's one in Aberdeen. You have the Sioux Empire Fair in Sioux Falls, and then you have the State Fair.
Don't forget the Turner County Fair.
Oh my goodness!
Turner County, God damn it! How could I forget about Turner County? All right, so 4, and then the State Fair. But
Alex Bays, eat your heart out.
Very good.
There you go. So that was just different. It's a little bit different, and yeah.
Wyatt Rogenkamp, your favorite fair, county, state, otherwise?
I like Valley Fair. I like to ride the wild thing.
Jesus Christ.
I think one day we must have rode that thing a dozen times in a row because nobody was there. We got off the ride. We got right back in line, got on it. I mean, all day long we rode Wild Thing.
Who is this? You and who?
This is in high school.
Okay.
So
you and Hagedorn.
Yeah, no, not Hagedorn. No. You didn't go to high school with me.
Very good. As we wrap up the 77th edition of The Lounge, Terry Vanderbeck of the Argus Leader, he had a story about 2 weeks ago about the very real possibility of an MMA show at the Pentagon on August the 22nd on a Friday
That sounds
night.
political.
No. It's mixed martial arts, the opposite of politics, fighting of some sorts. Would anybody go to this at the Pentagon to see guys beat the hell out of each other?
Well, you know,
I
the
wouldn't, but it's
Pentagon.
about an hour drive for me, and I'm not a big MMA guy. If there was one in Sioux City and like a couple guys I knew really wanted to go, I could be talked into it, but I would not be the guy setting it up.
Have we seen like an estimate on tickets or anything like that? What they go for?
I don't know. What would you expect? $10 maybe for this thing?
I'm guessing like
20?
20. Yeah.
I'd say 20 tops on this. 10 to 12 fights. It's live on TV.
Pay-per-view?
Access TV.
Okay.
AXS TV. So a small cable. Mr. Hildebrand, who would have to fight on this thing for you to say, I gotta go see this? Whether it's a one-on-one matchup or maybe two different guys in two different fights, either personal friends of yours, family members, celebrities. We're
not even talking about like real UFC people. You're like getting me to fight anyone.
Like hell, if you want to see, what do we got?
Chuck Knoblauch and Ron Gardenhire.
There you go. If you want to see badass Knoblauch face off against Kendrys Morales.
They're probably in the same weight class.
In the super heavyweight division. like if you had Bo Pelini versus Carl, would that be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going like anybody doing it, then I could be talked into it pretty easily. I think part of the problem is I don't follow it that closely, MMA. Like, I hardly follow it at all. And there's just not too many people I know. The guy who I know the most about is Brock Lesnar, who's never doing it anymore. But yeah, if we're just going with like famous people that hate each other, there's all sorts of things you could get me talked into going to see then.
Any takers? Anybody that you'd like to see? Marcus Traxler. Like to see Stiglmeyer and Johnston. Head-to-head.
Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal.
I'd like to see a Stiglmeyer Joe Glenn fight. Yeah. And I would
probably. Oh my.
Yeah.
You probably got to move that to the new arena there.
That's got to be at the Denny.
That's got to be at the T Denny right there. Final
Danny
question:
Batten
White
versus
Rogan
Tyler Starr.
Jesus, I'd watch that.
Put that on Hard Knocks.
I'd go see that. White Rogan Camp, you're in a fight. Who do you want to fight?
I'd want to see Pelini and Greg Bull go at it.
There you go.
Who would you personally like to fight?
Oh, who would I like to fight? Oh, I don't know.
Who would you like to get in the cage for 3 rounds and then try to just beat the shit out of?
How about
Brock Jensen? How about that?
Yeah, but I don't know. He's a sissy, I think.
He's a sissy.
How about what's our ex-quarterback that quit in the middle of the season?
Oh no.
Thomas O'Brien?
Yes, T.O.B. I'm gonna get it out of him. Why did you quit the team in the middle of the season?
Very good. Thomas O'Brien, Wyatt Rogan Camp, Pentagon, August 22nd, the main event. So be sure to Marcus Traxler. Somebody's at the door. Go answer the door.
I got it.
Good. All righty. Marcus Traxler, the return of the two-man show with the Stacking and Traxler. They'll be opening up. They're at the Pentagon. You got the two-man show, followed by a bunch of MMA fights. So a hell of a good time had by all. Any final thoughts here? We talked about gay football players. We've talked about people from Northern Kentucky. We've talked about Brooks and Dunn. We've talked about it all. Any final thoughts? What rock have we not uncovered in this hour and 10-minute program?
I've literally been spending the last 5 minutes thinking of famous people I'd like to see fight each other, and most of them have been sports ones. For now, until I come up with a better one, my final answer is Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll.
I like that.
Carroll's an old bastard.
He's crafty and charismatic, though.
That's right.
I'd like to see Spurrier and Saban.
Ooh, I like that one, too. That'd be really good.
Very good.
Gene Chizik and Brett Bielema arguing about whether they should go fast or slow.
Who else is in Bielema's weight class? Well, I mean, other than
Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss. I'd see that. I'd watch that. That'd be a good undercard fight.
Very good.
If you're Charlie Strong, you just kick half your team off the team.
Very good. Are you? I know you bleed orange. Does this Charlie Stronghire? Does this get your horns even harder for the Longhorns?
You know, I like what he's doing. I think he's trying to clean house and get a new mentality going. You know, he seemed like before he came in, they had a lot of complacency around there and a lot of the alter ego going on. You know, guys thought, oh, I play for UT. You know, we're going to win no matter what. Seems like he's trying to get back to, you know, the basics and trying to win ball games by working hard and accomplishing things.
Getting back to their roots.
The roots.
The roots and the.
None of that holy-gully passing around football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I guess, you know, when you look at it, Baylor and Texas A&M are a lot better. There's incentive for Texas to get back on track. So there's a lot on the table for Texas.
It's almost college
Mike
football
Piazza
season.
and Roger Clemens.
I'm watching the Hall of Fame thing here. I mean, let's see Greg Maddux and actually let's see Torrey and Cox throw down.
I would like that one, too. That'd be good.
Is that it?
Did those other two guys both freeze?
Yep.
Hmm?
You guys still there?
Yeah.
Kriens.
Nope, I guess just Travis froze.
He's the point man on this all.
That Sox hat did something to him.
I knew it was a bad omen.
And there's no goatee. I don't know what's up with that.
He's going through a personal crisis, I guess. He's lashing out.
Well, maybe we should call it right there then, huh?
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable.
I don't know if he's coming back. So, for the departed Travis Kriens and Wyatt Rogenkamp and Charlie Hildebrand, I'm Marcus Traxler. We'll see you next week inside the Sports Lounge.
Adios.